Okay, here we go. Cardiovascular system. Uh, Essential question: how does blood flow through the heart, lungs, and body? Right. So first of all, the function of the cardiovascular system obviously is to transport blood to all the tissues. It's going to go ahead and deliver oxygen, and then it will get rid of and also deliver the nutrients. Sorry, get rid of the metabolic waste such as CO2, and then also we learned about distributing hormones throughout the body, and also it helps with heating up our body. All right, and then there's a video here that I'll include that you can watch that includes the pumping of the blood. All right, so we're going to start with the heart, which is purely a muscle, right? And we should have learned about the specific type of muscle, right? It's a cardiac muscle. It nonstop, about 7,000 liters of blood a day. It's located in the thoracic cavity, as you probably remember. And then the pericardium encloses the heart. It's a tissue fascia that covers the heart and encloses it. Being a mammal, we have four chambers. We'll learn about those. And then the heart muscle itself is made up of three layers. The outer, which is the epicardium. Right? I don't know if you can see that here. The middle, which is the myocardium, which consists of the muscle itself, and then the endocardium, meaning in, right? So the endocardium. So that's the heart muscle itself, if you have the cross section of the heart. All right, so the anatomy, I went ahead and I posted this on Canvas, so you go ahead, and I know that it doesn't necessarily jive with the things that are here. I think we put our own on there, so it's a little bit confusing. But there are two veins that come into the heart, major veins. And so the first one is the superior vena cava, meaning it's above the heart. And the other one is going to be the inferior vena cava, and we'll talk about that, label that in a minute, but I guess we're going to go clockwise. So the next is the major artery that comes out of the heart, and that's the aorta. And then we have the artery that comes out of the heart. Actually, it's the main artery. So this is the pulmonary trunk, right? So that's the major, and then it will go ahead and it's not really okay. I'm going too fast. So the pulmonary trunk, and that will go to the pulmonary artery. We have pulmonary veins. These come in from the lungs, right? So, and then we have the coronary arteries. These will supply blood to the muscle itself of the heart. Then we have like I mentioned before, the inferior vena cava. So this is coming from the lower part of your body. The deoxygenated blood. This is from your brain. And then we have the brachiocephalic artery. So this is one of the three branches that come off of the aorta, and that goes towards your arms. Then we have the left common carotid artery, which goes up into your brain. And then we have the left subclavian artery, which will go through to the opposite side on the left side. All right, so that's the outer portion of it. Now the anatomy of the heart, we're going to sort of cut through it. Now we see that superior vena cava. This is unoxygenated blood, and it's going to come into the right atrium. It's sort of what I'll do is I'll sort of put everything up there, and we're going to sort of go through the process of it, right? Since I have them all here, so you can maybe go through. So we're going to start with the superior vena cava. The unoxygenated blood is going to go ahead and go to the right atrium. It's going to go through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, and then that unoxygenated blood is going to be pumped through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary trunk, and it's going to go ahead and go out the pulmonary artery to the lungs. The lungs are going to bring back the oxygenated blood back into the pulmonary veins. The oxygenated blood will go into the left atrium, and then it's going to go through the mitral valve into the left ventricle. And that's why it's thicker. We're going to learn about why that's the thickest part of the heart muscle, because it has to pump oxygenated blood throughout the whole body. All right. And then it's going to go up, and it's sort of confusing here, but it's going to go from the left ventricle through the aortic valve. And these valves are just to prevent it from back washing into the previous area, right? So what happens, it allows the blood to go through, and then it will close shut. And it's going to go up through the aortic valve through the aorta. All right. So you have both the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava coming in to the right atrium. All right. And I think I have included well, okay. So no, I didn't. So yeah, I did. I think I included everything. Okay. The only thing that I did not include is the interventricular septum, because that's just separates the right side and the left side of the heart, and no blood really passes through there. That's just the separation between the right and left ventricle. And I think I might have covered everything. So you are going to need to know the flow of the blood. That's really important. And this is another slide that just sort of goes through it, right? So superior and inferior vena cava, the right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary valve. Whoops. And then once it's going into the lungs now, so we're going to go to the pulmonary, comes back to the pulmonary trunk, back to the pulmonary arteries. Oh, wait. So, goes through we sort of got confused here. So pulmonary valve out to the pulmonary. So we're talking about, sorry about this. So we're talking about unoxygenated blood going out through the pulmonary artery. Okay, so the arteries, so it goes, sorry. So the pulmonary artery goes out to the lungs, capillaries in lungs where we have the actual gas exchange. So carbon dioxide will be released, oxygen will be diffused in to the blood, and then it goes through the pulmonary veins, back to the heart, goes to the left atrium, down through the mitral valve to the left ventricle, and then out through the aortic valve to the aorta, and then it will go out to the coronary arteries as well, because it needs to still provide oxygen for the heart muscle itself, and that's what the coronary arteries are. And then here we have how the heart pumps, another video to watch. So this is usually just the passage of smaller to larger to smaller to larger. So the aorta is the largest artery, and then it gets branched down to even smaller arteries, and then even smaller arterioles, and then the capillaries, which can hold a single red blood cell, and that's where oxygen or the gas transfer takes place. And then it goes back out to the venules and into the veins, and we can even go back from the aorta. We can talk about the inferior and superior vena cava. That would be the largest veins. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. They're strong, elastic, and are made of smooth muscle. Usually transport oxygenated blood. We'll talk about this instance where it does not. And then we're going to talk about constriction of the blood vessels. We have vasoconstriction, which is smooth muscle, and as it contracts, we get smaller diameter, and then dilation, vasodilation, it relaxes, and we get a larger diameter. All right. Capillaries, 1 cell thick, large quantities in tissue with high metabolism rates, right? We got to get that oxygen in order to make ATP, more demand for oxygen, more blood perfusion, right? As the oxygen goes into the blood. Arterioles regulate blood flow through the capillaries, and you can see how it's, the matrix that is in here. Capillary exchange, gases, nutrients, and metabolic waste. 3 processes. I think we've all talked about this. We talked about diffusion, the process of going from an area of high concentration to low concentration that doesn't require any energy. Filtration, Hydrostatic pressure, so that's based on the pressure inside and outside of the capillary walls, and that's just the nutrients. Okay, and then osmosis is water, right? So when we talk about diffusion of water, we're talking about osmosis. More fluid leaves blood vessels than returns, because the lymphatic system collects the extra and returns it to the blood. Okay. All right. So veins carry blood to the heart, thin layer of smooth muscle, large diameter muscles and veins help return blood to heart. They do have valves in them. So if you ever see like varicose veins, those the veins or the valves are breaking down in sort of pools, right? And then usually transport deoxygenated blood. So here's the difference between a vein and an artery. You can see that the artery has a lot of bit more muscle in it than the vein. All right, so so this is exception is the pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood and leaves the heart to the lungs, and then the oxygenated vein brings it back to the heart. Same with the artery. The umbilical cord artery brings oxygenated blood out to the baby, and the deoxygenated comes back with the vein. Okay, so it's the artery into the baby, right? So the vein is bringing oxygenated blood into the baby. All right, and all right, so we're going to talk about the anatomy of the blood vessels. All right, so I'll try to find this document too, and I'll post it so you could, if you want to print it, or you can just make a copy of it and you can write on it itself. All right, so we have our carotid artery, we have our iliac, which are hip, radial artery, which is obviously part of the radius. That's actually where we take our heart rate. And then we have our femoral artery. Oh yeah, femoral artery, largest artery. We certainly don't want to cut that. And then our veins, jugular vein, subclavian, which means it goes underneath the clavicle. Sorry, that's my dog. Medial cubital, which is right here in the cubital is sort of the little indentation in your elbow. And then we have the femoral vein and the iliac vein, iliac meaning hip. We actually, you can feel your iliac crest. All right, heart rate, how often the heart beats in a minute? Normal is about 50 to 90. If you're an athlete, especially a cardiovascular athlete, it could be even lower than that. And it's the expanding and recoiling of the artery. There's two places. We have the radial that I mentioned, and then the carotid are the two major areas. So I'm going to stop there, and then I'll make another set of notes for the blood pressure so we can just get started on this. All right.